I'm Brian Mahon, founder of Igloo Insurance, where we offer transparent risk advice to business owners and families. Today, we're talking about a crucial coverage for service-based businesses, professional liability, also known as Errors and Omissions, or E&O for short. We'll cover the major exposures, key coverages, common mistakes, and a preview of the best carriers for E&O. So what is E&O Insurance? Errors and Omissions, E&O Insurance protects professionals from businesses from claims of negligence, mistakes, or failure to deliver services as promised. So if your advice or professional service causes a financial loss, even unintentionally, you could be held liable. And that's where E&O Insurance steps in. So what are the major exposures covered by Errors and Omissions insurance? First and foremost, professional negligence, like giving incorrect advice or missing a deadline, just completely dropping the ball. Misrepresentation, unintentionally providing misleading information or bad advice in your professional service. Potentially a violation of good faith or fair dealing, especially in written contracts. Inaccurate documentation or reporting, common in the finance industry, legal industry, technology industry, or failure to meet professional standards, even if no harm was intended. So what are the top key coverages or coverage features of Errors and Omissions insurance? First, you want to look at defense costs, right? They're often included, but you want to check your policy to see if defense costs fall within the coverage limits or outside the limit. As the policyholder, you want those defense costs to be outside the limit. That gives you broader coverage and avoids your main limits from depleting through litigation. You also want to check if your definition of professional services is worldwide coverage, right? Especially if you're working remotely or internationally or have clients, outside your country. You also want to check if your policy is services defined or enterprise-wide coverage. So some E&O and professional liability policies cover the services specifically listed on the declarations page or the main insurance page of your policy. So it's critical to keep this updated as your business evolves, new services are added. What we prefer and recommend is a professional policy that covers enterprise-wide coverage. It's written at the entity level and covers all activities of the entity. So it's broader across all business units, ideal for firms with multiple service lines or subsidiaries or offerings really in their professional services. The last thing you want to check out is if you have contractual liability included in your professional coverage. Some policies offer limited coverage for contract disputes, particularly maybe there's a 1099 contractor involved, right? Are they picked up under your professional liability? Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. So some special coverages we recommend, right? This is a pretty generic video, so it kind of depends on your industry, but we also often recommend professional E&O liability insurance products based off an industry. So for IT consultants, software developers, SaaS providers, cybersecurity consultants, they typically purchase technology errors and omissions. For marketing firms, PR firms, content creators, they may have a professional media liability policy. The healthcare industry could have a medical malpractice or a medical billing errors and omissions policy. So just do some research and ask your advisor for specific coverage for what you do in your industry. Regardless of industry, there are some common mistakes to avoid when you're purchasing E&O or professional liability policy. Some business owners assume general liability covers professional mistakes. It doesn't. GL or general liability covers bodily injury and property damage if you're sued from a third party. PL or professional liability covers financial loss if you're sued by a third party. Another mistake is not disclosing all services, right? That can lead to denied claims. When you apply for coverage, you're often going through various services and ticking off which percent of those that you do. If you do 1% of bookkeeping, but you're really an outsourced CFO, 99% of the time, you still want to include that when you apply for coverage. Letting coverage lapse, right? You could lose protection for past work. There's a retroactive date you have to be mindful with these claims-made policies. You just want to make sure if you switch carriers, you match that retroactive date. And if you're a new purchaser of professional liability insurance, that retroactive date is at policy inception. You also want to avoid choosing the cheapest policy. Unfortunately, you often get what you pay for. I see this a lot with architects, E&O, and kind of engineers and designers. where they may do a little bit of construction management, but then they get a professional liability policy that only covers design services. So you want to be mindful of that. So who are the top insurance carriers we trust for errors and omissions or professional liability insurance? There are a number of markets in this space, depending on what you do. You could end up with a non-admitted excess and surplus lines carrier like a Beazley or Hiscox or CFC. I see this a lot with technology professional services or financial professional services like bookkeeping or fractional CFO, or even management consulting, right? Kind of generic management consulting. You could have a standard admitted carrier like a CNA or Travelers. This happens a lot in the real estate industry with realtors, E&O. It's also possible some E&O coverage might be able to be added to your current business owner's policy or your current commercial package. We see this sometimes with regional carriers like Erie, Selective, Donegal, particularly in the construction industry with contractors, E&O. So if you provide advice, design, or professional services, E&O Insurance is your safety net. At Igloo Insurance, we help you understand your risks and build the right protection. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below, and reach out with any questions. Thanks so much.